Welcome back. We're finally back to the Woodshed build. I started this project last fall and the greenhouse I'm working on started happening, so I had to stop this and work on the greenhouse, which I haven't finished the greenhouse yet either, but part of that time of the year where I have a chance I can work on this shed for the wood supply for next winter. Last fall, if you remember, I've got a video of how I started all this. I cleared out this area, set the posts in the ground, and the other day my wife had some time, so she helped me get some of the floor joists installed. You'll notice in some of the sections of the boards are a different color. They look like they're painted. It's actually a tinted stain. I like to reuse a lot of the wood that I've come across if it's still in good shape. Like the posts, those colored pieces are off of a fairly large deck that we used to have on our house that we had to dismantle. Boards in really good shape, so I kept them. I've used a ton of them already. I've built most of my chicken coop with the lumber I got off that deck. And with this project, I was hoping to use quite a bit from that deck for this project. So you see those boards that are colored back there, I'm using them as the rim joist. And a couple of the pieces that I had planned on using, I picked up off the pile and they were rotted out, so I couldn't use them because I thought I had enough to go all the way around this whole project. Well, pretty close anyway. And since they were bad, I did have to go and with plan B, I had to go to town and get some brand new pieces of lumber for that. Didn't have it at the time when my wife was available, so we actually were able to start on the joist work before I installed the last of the rim joist. So for today, I'm gonna at least start the process of putting in the rest of the rim joists, which I'm sitting on the pieces right here. Weather is not looking the best, but I'm gonna do as much as I can. Probably have to get back at this in another day or two once the weather starts to cooperate a little bit better and I have a little bit more time on my hands. This is basically gonna be same construction as a deck that you'd have on a house. I'm gonna have the 16-inch on center joists, and I'm going to actually use wood deck planking on the surface when this is all done. And so for the construction purposes, as far as if you wanted to do this for yourself, that's all I'm doing. I'm just putting the deck right down on the ground level. I'm making it level, and you'll see later on that the ground does slope away, but this decking will be level. When this is all said and done, this thing should hold approximately 9 full cords of firewood, which should pretty much take care of at least a whole winter for me, which should be really nice to have. So let's get at it. So I am by no means a professional carpenter. I'll put that out there right off the bat. So many people out there that know better than me, which is probably most everybody, will be able to point out all the things that I probably could have done better or I flat out did wrong. I don't care. This is a woodshed. It's not a place of residence for anyone. So I know it's not up to code for a house, but this isn't a house. So what I want to point it out, it's kind of important as best you can when you're doing a project like this to be careful with your dimensions when you start, because that affects everything down the line. It doesn't matter if you're doing a woodshed, a house, garage, deck, anything. And I made a little bit of an error on the planning of this when I set my corner posts or my perimeter posts for this building. I wanted it to be 8 foot deep. So from front corner to back corner is 8 foot. But now I realize when I'm planning out to put my floor planking down that I put that rim joist on the outside of that post. I've got a rim joist on the outside of this post. Well, that now makes it 8 foot 3 inches. And as you might know, most boards when you go by the store, they're not 8 foot 3 inches. They're 8 foot, 10 foot, usually 2 foot increments. Made a little mistake. I can adjust for that, but I made it a little bit more difficult than I had to if I just would have planned ahead a little bit better. Okay, right down the middle here we have, that's actually some more of the joists I'm going to be using over there, but otherwise on the left and right of that are the planks that I'm going to be laying across there. And so I cut them to the length that I need, and it was ended up, I went with a 100-inch plank is what it's going to be. It's going to give me enough to cover the span, and then maybe like a 1-inch lip on the front edge, or reveal, whatever you want to call it. And so on the right, you can see I had to buy some more because I didn't have enough. And this is the stuff off of my old deck, which is still in really good shape. And I had quite a bit of it, so I had a little over half of what I needed just off that old deck, which is a pretty good cost savings for me, because lumber is cheaper than it used to be, but when you start buying a whole bunch of lumber, it does get pretty expensive. But anyway, part of my calculations involve this wood here is 5 3/4 thick. It's green, new, and so when I apply it, I'm planning on, and it will shrink. So it'll go from the 5 3/4, and it'll end up like this older stuff that dries down to 5 1/2. So I'm going to account for that when I lay it down. I'm going to have a little bit of an air gap between each board. So for these older ones, I'm going to space them about a 1/4 inch apart for a 1/4 inch air gap. But for these over here, I'm just going to butt them up to each other, because when they dry, it'll end up with at least a 1/4 inch air gap once it dries. So makes it a little tricky when you're trying to calculate how many boards to buy to span an area, but I think I've got it pretty close, and I bought a couple of extra ones. So part of the predicament I had was a 100-inch plank, and so what I did is I took 14-foot planks. I was able to work it out so I could cut a 100-inch of a plank off of that, and with what was left, I could come up with the pieces like that and like that. So what I'll do is I'll have one full plank that I'll install, and then I'll put a row with 2 pieces. The next one will be a full plank, then 2 pieces. So I'll just stagger it. Should be plenty strong that way. And for the little mistake I made with measuring, that's what I have to deal with. But it worked out okay, because with the old stuff I had, the lengths worked out, and the scrap pile that was left over, these pieces over here are what was left over after I got done cutting. Now the longer pieces are all just pieces of junk wood. They had cracks in them or holes in them. I didn't want to use them, but for the most part, that's the leftover scrap. So it worked out pretty well for me, luckily, all things considered. So just as a review as to what I'm doing, I've got a woodshed that's 8 foot deep, 24 feet wide. I'm going to have 3 separate bays that are going to have dividers in them, so they'll be 8 foot by 8 foot bays, and that way I'll be able to rotate the older wood with the newer wood once I use them up and refill them for the next year and so on. And I've already installed a bird feeder over here. You gotta see this thing. It's a bird feeder. It's got a camera on it. It's hooked up to the Bluetooth, charged by the solar panel. You hook it up to an app on your phone, and you can watch the birds if they come up and sit there. It'll notify you when they land on there, and it sits there and chimes on your phone nonstop. So you have to disable that notification, but it's kind of neat to see the different birds that come in. It even has an AI application where it can identify the bird for you. It's just not the old-fashioned bird feeder like we used to have, but it's kind of cool. And I guess I should say one more added bonus feature to all this is it actually doubles as a security camera, because I've got it pointed right back at our house. So dual purpose. You can always go back and review the history of any. It's got a motion sensor on there, so it's pretty cool. Now it might look like I've sped the tape up to make things move along, but that's actually my normal working speed. more days, I think. Well, this is what I got for weather. I was worried about the rain. We got snow. Finally let up. We got at least 12 inches of snow. I didn't get out the official yardstick and measure it, but it's plenty. Knocked me back a few days. Got a little bit of time here today, so I'm going to try to get some of these joists installed. that's all I'm going to do for today. I'll probably be back in a couple of days, probably 3 or 4 days, and I'm going to start putting the decking on. See you then. Well, just like before, I've got a couple minutes left in today. I can work on this, so I'm going to work on putting the decking down. I'm going to use the used deck boards first, use them all up, work my way across, and then once they're all gone, I'll bring in the new lumber and continue with the new lumber. So here we go. Well, the seasons keep changing around here. At a foot of snow, then it's raining. Today I was gonna get back at this today, but it's just been raining all day today until right this second, and then the sun's gonna set in a few minutes. So I'm gonna have to give up for a little while longer on this, but you get the idea. You see what I've done here so far. I'm just gonna continue doing the same thing here, and I'll show you a picture here of the finished product here. So I'm not gonna bore you to death any more than I've already bored you with watching me lay this out. This video has been long enough. One thing I forgot to mention is when I was spacing these boards here, I was putting these pencils in. They're just contractor pencils or construction pencils. They're specifically designed for various things other than just writing and marking. They happen to be about 1/4 inch wide, which is a gap I want for the boards. So in the video, you might be able to see me putting these in there to space the boards. It works pretty slick. Otherwise, thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, share, do all that stuff. Appreciate it. Stay tuned for the part 3 video that'll be coming up. We'll be putting the walls and the roof on. See you later.